Hey guys, welcome back to Game of Thrones Weekly.
Another week.
Another week. Episode 3, Season 6.
Yeah.
Some pretty big advancements.
In a couple different storylines, yeah.
3 big things. Jon Snow's arc, Arya Stark, and Bran.
Yeah, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. I really liked when they did the flashback for Ned.
The sword battle was badass, right?
The sword battle was badass, and then it was kind of cool because he was like, well, I've heard the story 1,000 times. Mm. And then it turned out that it didn't exactly happen the way
Ned said it did.
One of his buddies or whatever stabbed the guy in the back that he was fighting. And then they were at the tower with Lyanna, and there was like a baby crying, or somebody crying. Or
she was screaming.
She was screaming. And Ned went to go run in, and Brandon was like, "Dad!" And he turned around, and it was like kind of cool. And then Three-Eyed Raven was like, "Oh man, he might have just heard the wind."
Like, don't do that.
Don't go in there. And then he took him back. And that's something that they can always have in their back pocket. Like, oh, Three-Eyed Raven can have like a flashback moment, and it can be really, really cool.
Oh man.
What do you think about Arya?
That was probably one of my favorite parts of the episode, honestly. They had this awesome montage. It was almost like a training montage, kind of.
Yeah.
And I don't know, just like the first 2 episodes of the season, and just while she's been training in Bravos, it has been slow, and we're kind of like wondering where is it going exactly. It's getting there. It's definitely this just 5-minute part was a big deal, and it showed her just talking about like her past, and it was cool to see her talk about it from her perspective, because we know everything that that's happened to her, but we don't really. She never really talks about it.
Yeah, and we've seen. I think that last little bit there, she finally crossed over. I think that's like the end of her training for the most part. And let's see if they start sending her out.
I think it might be.
Let's see if they start sending her out on little missions.
Yeah. The biggest thing that obviously happened, like you said, at the end, she gets her eyes back. Yeah. She finally accepts that she is no one, as we assume, and he gives her eyes back, and we think that's probably the end of the training, but we'll see what happens when they pick up next with her.
And then Jon opened and closed the episode.
Yes.
Rightfully so.
Which I was happy with that.
John's
Honestly.
100% the main character at this point. The emphasis on the storytelling is just 100% Jon. He opens and closes the show. Seemingly like on a weekly basis.
Except when he's dead.
and
even when he's dead, actually.
So he woke up at the beginning of the episode, right?
Yeah.
And Davos and Melisandre were there. And he was just like breathing really heavy, and I was like, holy shit. And they showed him like walking out, and everybody was like, oh, they think you're a god. And then they made a little joke about his.
Yeah, they were just basically, it was picking up with Jon meeting all of his old buddies. Like he talked to Tormund, and they had a little joke, and then he went and talked to his best friend from the Night's Watch, and they were talking, and then before he even went out though, he was talking to Davos, and he was just asking like, what happened, like, do you remember anything? And he said that he remembered getting killed, and then he said when he was dead that there was nothing, like there was nothing then.
Jump to the end of the episode, they hang the 4 main guys that
stabbed him. Thank God.
Including, I can't remember the older guy's name.
Thorne.
And then
Alistair.
Yeah, and then Ollie as well.
Yeah. Oh,
and
man.
He didn't say anything. He like went down and asked each guy if he had the last words, and they all kind of said little different things that you would expect guys to say. And then Ollie just kind of sat there with a little shit grin on his face and just was.
Oh, was he grinning? He looked like he was about to burst into tears.
He looked like a bitch. And Jon cut the rope, and then they hung and struggled. I thought they were just gonna cut away. I thought they would drop, and that's like it. Because you see that a lot. You see that a lot in different movies, but they actually struggled for a minute, and I thought Jon for a second was gonna come down. But.
Nah. Yeah, they were hanged, and then he goes over to his best friend from the Night's Watch, and he takes off the Lord Commander's like cloak and hands it to him, and he says like, "Whoa, why are you giving this to me?" And he was like, "You need to burn these guys, and you need to take this cloak, do whatever you want with it." And he says, "My watch has ended," and then he walks off. He's in his gear, and he just walks off. So I think he's definitely going down to Winterfell in the very near future, with all the wildlings, and they're gonna go take Winterfell and hopefully kill Ramsay, because he deserves it. Oh, another big thing. Speaking of Ramsay.
What?
The Rickon Stark coming back.
Oh god, 2 seasons. So Rickon Stark. I was wondering if they're ever gonna bring those characters back.
So we cut to Ramsay Snow like towards the end of the episode, basically, and he's talking to, I want to say it was Lord Umber, and he's one of his bannermen, and they're just talking about the problems with the wildlings, and now they're really coming in, and they mentioned that Jon Snow is up there, And then he's like, well, I have a gift for you. And then he brings in these two people with bags over their heads. And he takes them off, and it turns out it's the wildling girl from a couple seasons ago that was with Bran and Rickon and Hodor. And then, of course, the other person is Rickon. And they have the head of his dire wolf, which they killed. And it's just like, wow, Rickon Stark is back.
And they didn't like talk to her really or anything, but he was just like, oh, welcome home, your lord, or whatever. Ramsay's such a little bastard.
Yeah, I don't like it. Yeah, so he's the worst.
Oh, God. So, it was cool to see Jon at the end walk off, and like basically they kind of just showed him like leaving Castle Black. Because like he's been tied up there. You forget he went up there like early in season 1.
Yeah.
And he's been there basically the entire time.
He's been there the entire series.
And it's like, you forget, as cool as he is, that he hasn't had any interactions with other characters.
Mm-hmm.
But then you also remember none of the characters, like all their stories kind of are separate. Like they've all had little bit,
Yeah, whenever any characters intersect, it's like a special thing, obviously. Like when Brienne finally met with Sansa, and when Stannis finally got to the Wall and met with Jon,
It's almost like seeing like a TV crossover, because like each series, each like storyline is so good.
Yeah.
And like I was saying negative things about Arya's storyline, but then this week it got me interested again. It's like Sam, we haven't really seen him. He pops up for a few minutes this episode, and it's just like, I don't really care. I think it's really cool that he's going off to be a maester, but I know at some point he'll probably come back and be like really, really cool. But it's just hard. I know in a few episodes I'm sure he'll get like a good 5-minute run or a 10-minute run or whatever, and I'll be interested again. But it's the other angles are so strong that if you only get a minute, it's like...
So are there any parts of the episode that you were questionable on, you didn't like that much? Or
just the
you wish
Sam,
it had been different?
Just the Sam part. I mean, I know they are just leading us into something, so I understand that. But I just always find those little parts just a little weak. But besides that, I loved, Jon's storyline. Daenerys, again, I just can't buy into that. I just don't like it. I just don't like it. I feel like Tyrion is just being wasted right now. I know they're
he's the best thing going in that part of the world. I mean,
I know, but it's that part is so weak. It's like he's fallen so much. When he was at the Capitol, like super strong interactions with other characters.
Oh, of course, yeah.
He would put people in their place.
No doubt, yeah.
And it's just like, God. Well, for you, like, was there anything that stood out that you just didn't jive for you?
The one thing, it's not really a negative per se, but the executions at the end, I really like. Ever since Jon Snow got killed, and I assumed he would come back, I really just wanted to see him just chop their heads off.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to see Ollie get chopped in half. I wanted to see Thorne get, like, just... Because I figured... I mean, I understand. I never really thought about it, I guess. But when Jon Snow came back, I thought he might be a little different. I thought he might be really angry. But he's just kind of, like, sullen, and, like, he doesn't really know what to do.
What do you grade the episode?
I'm trying to remember what last week I gave it 9.5. First episode I gave it 8.5. I would say... I think this episode was... It was really solid. There were, like you said, there were a lot of advancements, even though it was slower. I would say 8.5.
I'll say 9. There was a lot of advancements, and I got interested in some of the characters I wasn't really caring about, like Arya. Mm-hmm. And I think the Jon stuff was really good.
Okay, so the preview for next week's episode, there were some things that looked really interesting. It was Cersei and Jaime were talking to they were talking to the council, right? Again, and they were just saying that apparently oh god, what's the name of the queen? Marjorie. Queen Marjorie. Queen Marjorie, it looks like, is going to have to do some sort of big public apology in order to get out of being imprisoned. But Jaime and Cersei were talking to Lady Tyrell, and they're like, "Well, we can't. I don't think that needs to happen." They're like, "Oh yeah, well, we're not going to let that happen." So it sounds like something is definitely going to go down next week as far as the whole Sparrow situation goes, which I'm definitely looking forward to. Also, it looked like. I mean, I wasn't really sure, but I think it looked like Sansa and Brienne were getting to the Castle Black. Am I right?
I couldn't tell exactly where they were yet, but it appears that was where they were going.
Yeah, so, I mean, Sansa and Jon could finally be reunited, which would be huge, because...
I hope they're not like, oh, he just left.
Oh, God, that would suck so bad. But, yeah, I mean, when was the last time any of the Stark kids were together? Right? Yeah. So, it looked like Daenerys could possibly end up getting saved next week as well. Right. It looked like that they were spying from a distance, and they might try to pull off a rescue. So, I'm definitely interested. It looks like there's going to be a lot more action next week than there was this week. So I'm definitely interested. Like you said, there wasn't really any Jon Snow, but I'll be curious to see. I can't imagine they're going to leave him untouched for a whole episode. You know what I mean? So,
it appears that's what they're going to do. But
I think they'll probably set up him going down to Winterfell.
Come back next week
Uh-huh.
for Game of Thrones Weekly Episode 4, Season 6. Thank you guys for our last video. It was our biggest video ever.
Oh yeah, the Battlefield 1 trailer reaction.
It was over 1,000 plus. That's the first time we've ever hit 1,000. And
so
we've gotten a lot more subscribers, even though we still don't have that many. But please subscribe.
Thanks for watching. We definitely appreciate subscribers. We appreciate people who leave likes, comments, and just keep us going.
Yeah,
it's fun.
Hitting 1,000 was like kind of a milestone. That's the first 1,000 video.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a big deal.
Hopefully it's not the last one.
Definitely, hopefully not.
Yeah.
So come back next week, please like and share and whatever with the video, and yeah.
We'll see you next week.
Yeah. Keep enjoying Game of Thrones.